Today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. My name is Daniel Mullany, and behind the camera is Caitlin Yates. We are here filming a video source inspection for SciTech Process Solutions. Today we're going to be viewing a fully refurbished K&S 973 mask cleaner. This system is set up with the standard configuration with high pressure wash, spray arm, an N2 blow off, a heat lamp, and a rotating chuck that washes both 5x5 and 7x7 inch masks. What I'm going to do is I am going to first run the larger mask, so we're going to demonstrate both mask sizes here. I'm going to run the larger mask, then I'll review the system kind of overall. We can inspect the mask when it's done. Then we're going to go over some instruction for how the controller works, the variety of features that are included with the system through the control panel. Then we will run the second mask and watch the entire run a little more closely so you can actually see the operation, and then we'll inspect the second mask for cleanliness. So we're going to inspect them both one at a time. First, also this customer is located in Canada and their PO number is CER6811. All right. Okay, so first what we're going to do is I'm going to open the lid here, and we're going to pull out the first mask. Here we have the 7x7 inch mask. This is just a dummy mask. This one is going to then sit right here on the chuck. This is what we call a step chuck. It's designed to hold multiple mask sizes. You'll see that it holds this one and it'll hold the other mask size without any tooling. So it's great for multi-purpose use. Now we're going to close the system. So in order to do so, you need to hold both lid close buttons simultaneously until the system closes. There we go. Okay, now this is our first time running the system since last night. We're filming this morning. And the first thing that we want to always do with the system on a fresh day is hit the flush button on here. So I'm inspecting inside and the system is purging water through. The flush button is to prime the pump and ensure you don't run it dry. When I pressed it, the water immediately came out. So we would have been fine to just run the system this morning, but it's good practice to, on a daily basis, make sure you press that flush button to ensure that forever how long the system was sitting still, the water didn't, for some reason, evacuate the pump and you're going to run the system dry. Again, you should be fine to run it, but it's good practice to, the first run of the day, hit flush first and confirm that the water has actually come out of the spray nozzle prior to running the system. So confirm that, and we're going to go ahead and run the system. So let's see here. Start cycle located right here. Everything's programmed and we're going to review that in a minute. Okay, so everything is operating properly there. I'll review that later. What I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to come down here to the bottom of the system. Please bear with us. The camera's going to get a little bit shaky right here, but it's kind of an awkward angle. So we're coming under here to take a look at the system. The obvious main component, you see it shaking right now, that's the high pressure pump. It's building up pressure, and that's how we're actually cleaning the mask, is with that high pressure DI agitation against the mask. Here we show the pressure range that we're currently operating, about 1800 right now. That's a very standard mask cleaning range. Inside here you also see we have an incoming N2 pressure gauge that's working at the same pace as the pump. We have nitrogen dry setting right here. We have the CO2 adjustment right here. And we have also a variety of other pressure switches included in here. The system has already been adjusted to operate properly, so we're not going to make any adjustments right now. However, the identification of all these items is located in the manual, and it's pretty straightforward in terms of the function of the tool. You can always give us a call if you have any questions with it as well. And then in the back, which is one of the features included, you'll see the CO2 mixing tank. That's going to mix the carbon dioxide with your DI water in order to re-ionize and safely clean the mask without causing damage. We're good down there. The purpose of that CO2 is to, as I mentioned, re-ionize the DI water. DI water alone will eat away at the mask. What happens is you have high pressure DI water essentially colliding against the metal features of the mask. And when that happens, the DI water starts stripping electrons off of the chrome, which will ruin the mask over time, and even on a first run, it'll cause some damage. It's called the corona effect, and you can see that occurring actually with your eyes. There's almost like a brightness that happens on the mask sometimes. That's the electrons, you can actually visualize them being stripped off the chrome. So that's an important feature for whenever you're performing mask cleaning, is to have some sort of DI reionizing capability included with it. So the panel back in front. The panel has a small latch on the front that requires a tool. We'll latch that on later. So taking a look back at our system right here, we're moving now into our dry one. So everything's good. This is where the N2 blow off is just blowing the water, the residual water off the mask while it's spinning. Okay, taking a look at the back here. It's a little crowded, but I'll just read off some of the items here. We have the K&S nameplate. We have our SciTech tag on here. And then we also have the variety of the facilities that are going to be required for the system. That's the exhaust. We have the drain, the CDA, the nitrogen, and the, which one did I forget? Oh, the CO2. So we have all of those facilities hooked up on here. Again, this is listed in the manual and will be provided prior to shipment, so the facility locations can be prepped. But this is all the normal setup for any standard mask cleaner. So everything with this guy is operating well and is a standard configuration. We'll take a look now at these front gauges. We actually just missed that, so we can take a look later, but the nitrogen dry was operating at about 25 PSI. That's a normal level for the nitrogen dry. You want to set yours up for 25 PSI, or at least 25, and our system, as the valve is set up for that, so you'll see that. We have the CO2 here is set up to 20, so both those are reading properly. Here we have the lid close buttons that I talked about. You'll see them on both sides. They need to be pressed at the same time to use it. Here we have the start button. Then we have the lid open button. It also says vacuum release. That is a feature that's used for wafer cleaning, which is not included with this system. This system is designed, or is configured, I mean, for the mask cleaning. Then we also have the power off button, and then the power on button. It's a little pretty self-explanatory right there. So the first system, or the first run, is now complete. It says on our screen right here, we have drying done. The done light is blinking. There's a main button here that you can click to return to the main menu. But what we really want to do is get in the system and inspect our mask. So let's go ahead and do that. Going to lid open, that's just one button. There we go. And now we're going to pop open. We see a variety of residual water in the chamber still okay already, or after the process. That's all right. It's never going to dry the entire chamber bone dry. It's not configured for that. It's configured to dry the mask. So here we have the mask. As you can see, it's perfectly dry on both sides. It's not cleaning both sides at once. It'll only clean one side because only one side has the oscillating spray arm, but both sides will come out dry. So there we go. And welcome back. That was a little choppy there. We had a technical difficulty with the camera, but we're going to continue from the point we left off, which is loading on our 5x5 mask. So we're going to go ahead and set this guy right in here. As you can see, it loads on to the lower level steps on the step chuck. So it's a great product here, which allows us to run multiple sizes. And we will continue. So with this item, what I wanted to do with this mask, what I wanted to do first was give an instruction of all the features on the controller prior to washing it, and then we'll wash it to close up this source inspection. So first thing that I'm going to show is the flush that we excuse me, that we mentioned earlier. I turn on the flush. You can see with my fingers there that the water's coming off right there. So that's how we know we're priming the pump. I'm dripping a little water on the mask so I can show the N2 blow off after too. So got that running. So now we're going to turn off the flush because we have no reason to leave it on prior to running. You want to actually turn that off. First, recipe options. Also, as I go through this, I might move a little bit quickly. Please feel free to just pause the video and rewind to watch any of these features that you need to revisit as we go. So, first item is view recipe. This demonstrates the 3 different recipes that we have programmed onto our controller right now into our system. Recipe 1 is the only one that we're currently using, but we have verified function on both recipe 2 and recipe 3. Load recipe allows you to change the recipe. Simply change the recipe and hit OK to change it. We want to stick with recipe 1 as that's the one that's properly programmed for this mask. And you can view that right here. Okay? We're going to load recipe 1. Now, if we want to edit recipe, we're going to come here. The code is 1973. It's easy to remember because the system is a 973. Now to edit a recipe, simply select the recipe, select the item you like to change that to 100, and simple as that. It's really intuitive to change the recipes on this system. So we're done with that. We're focusing on recipe 1 anyways though, so just to verify again, we can view recipe, and there we go. But hit load recipe and we see recipe 1 is loaded. What I could have also done here is process status view, and we can see recipe 1 is loaded, and we have not proceeded with anything, so we're sitting at 0 RPM. Okay. Next, I'm going to show the system setup. So again, we need a code here, 1973, and here you can change the brightness. That's pretty straightforward, and you can also adjust the minimum pump pressure. So this is the minimum pump pressure. So you can turn it on or off. We want to leave this on. The minimum pump pressure is the minimum pressure that the pump must be operating at before there's a fault and the system will shut down with an alarm. The point of this is to make sure that your pump is actually pumping and there's no failure that's going to prevent the mask from being washed properly. So we're going to go ahead and leave that on. Okay. The next item that we have here is manual mode. So manual mode is going to have a whole variety of features on it. This code is different. It's 3910. Okay, so this is going to allow you to manually operate any of the features of the system. You can close the lid, for example. You can open the lid. You can run the high pressure pump. You always want to have the DI running first, then operate it. So you can see it running in the system. You can turn on the N2 blow off. See, as you can see, the water droplets are blowing off the chuck right there. We can turn on the heat lamp, and we can turn on the blower. We have exhaust hooked up to the system right now, but there's also an internal blower that I can feel the system vibrating a little bit. It's running and it's working properly. We can also operate the spray arm. Okay. On the next screen here, we have the manual, the input readouts. So this is not an interactive screen, but it's a readout of the currently active sensors or the inputs on the system. So currently we have lid open sensor and chuck edge sensor. That's automatically met. That's not a condition for mask cleaning on this system. And next we have our manual spindle control here. So if we want to run the system manually, we set this to 100, for example, and we hit spin. Oh, this one actually requires a reset of the system before you run it. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and lid close this. And what we do is we power off and power back on. A quick system setup here, so we're going to go to manual mode, 3910. Go over to the chuck RPM, set it to 100, and then we're going to spin. So as you can see in the system, it is spinning right now. What actually may have been required on this is actually just closing the system. There's probably an interlock that prevents it from running at a high RPM, which will be referenced in the manual as well. But as you can see, that's the manual spin that's operating in there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to finish up this source inspection by doing a final run of the mask. So again, this is how you normally run it. You take your mask, you load it in. The chuck being able to rotate a little bit here is normal, so that's loose, it's not going to be held tight. Then we're going to do the lid close. And then we are going to start the cycle. Okay. So I can see inside of here right now that we're operating properly. We have the chuck spinning at 100 RPM. That's the same as we actually tested it in manual mode. And we have the high pressure spray arm oscillating back and forth across it. So everything's looking good right there. I'm taking a look. Our CO2 reionized pressure is maintaining at 20. That's important to ensure that that water is being reionized, as we talked about before. So that's in spec right now too. The other item that's going to turn on is the nitrogen dry. That's going to crank up to 25 psi when the valve is open, and that's going to be during our dry one, which is going to be in 75 seconds. So everything with the system is operating great right now. Another item that I want to show you actually on here is if you take a look at the pump pressure. This is the digital readout from the sensor that's hooked up to the high pressure pump. Notice how it drops down, and I'm not sure if the frames per second on this camera will catch it very well, but it drops down every once in a while to 200, to 540, and to other low numbers. That's when the pump's building pressure back up to continue the high pressure wash, and that's why we set our set point for the interlock that we mentioned earlier in manual mode to 125 psi. It's because it makes such a drastic drop. And that is expected. I want to identify that because that should not be of any concern when you are watching the system operate properly installed in the fab. Okay. The last feature that we will demonstrate to be operating properly with this system will be the EMO, and we can go ahead and do that at the end once we've shown that the mask is washed properly and dried. I don't want to emo it right now because then we'll be forced to rerun the process. All right, we are looking at 2.5 minutes of total process time left. You can see over here on the nitrogen dry that I mentioned that we have 25 psi. So that's great. The nitrogen dry is working well. Taking a look into the system, I can see a little bit of some of the droplets kind of working their way around the chamber. That's as expected. That lets you know that we have good agitation. We're also running at a much higher RPM now at 1400. That higher RPM is going to assist with the total drying. The next step after the 60-second blow off is going to be the 90-second dry with the heat lamp. So that's the heat lamp's going to turn on, and we're going to use heat in the chamber to finish the drying process. Heat is critical towards getting a nice, a clean and consistent dry out of any product that you're running in here, and of course with masks that we're demonstrating today. Okay, 1.5 minutes left. As you can see, the IR lamp's coming on. And notice how I've been touching this, the top heat lamp housing. There's not really any concern for the system getting too hot and touching it, as some systems might, so no safety hazard here associated with the heating. Okay, we have about 60 seconds left of exciting dry time left. Okay, and the N2 blow-off actually just cut off completely. It does cross over a little bit, but now that's turned off entirely, and we're strictly going to be having the heat lamp performing the drying along with the rotating chuck. The chuck is going to be rotating, and we're spinning at the same 1400 RPM that we were in the previous dry step. Okay, so got about 10 seconds left. What we're going to notice when the system completes its drying process here is that we're going to have a time delay for the chuck to slow down and for the system to settle afterwards. So there we see that the chuck just slowed down. Okay, great. And now we're going to have a little bit of delay before we're going to go ahead and open this. You'll know that this is complete here in a moment when it starts flashing. The start cycle light also turns off. So you can acknowledge this by pressing the main, but that doesn't open the chamber at all here. What we really need to do to finish this is we're going to hit lid open. Okay. Now we're going to pull out our mask. Our mask is entirely dry. And it is not really warm to the touch from the mask. You know, you're not going to be touching your mask after a normal process, but it is not warm to the touch. The drying assists with the drying, but it doesn't warm up your substrate too much. So this feels about room temperature, and we are totally dry. Again, inspecting the chamber, I see a significant amount of residual water around the chamber. That's as expected. What the system is designed to dry is the center mask and the chuck, and that's what we have achieved here. Okay, so as we completed, we would hold lid closed for another process. And the last thing I'm going to do is we're going to demonstrate this EMO. Power off. So I would like to thank you for taking the time to review our video source inspection for today. Again, my name is Daniel Mullany, and we filmed this video source inspection for SciTech Process Solutions. If you have any more questions about this product or any others that we do sell, a variety are found on our website. Please visit that at www.scitechprocess.com. That's SITEK process.com, or give us a call at 916-792, or that's my cell phone, 916-797-9000, and to reach me directly, dial extension 2201. Thank you so much, and have a great day.